Hello and welcome to the third part of this tutorial. If you've watched the other two tutorials, you already know where we're at. We've done the pencil sketching, we've done the inking, and now we're ready for the colouring. If you've just joined us, what we've done, we're basically just scanned the image. So the image hasn't been adjusted at all on PC yet, but I will do that now. This is the image I've got. I scanned it at 600 dpi. I did it grayscale because obviously I didn't need any colours, and this is what we've got. And it's, as I probably mentioned in the last tutorials, that if you watch them, you can see a lot of bleed, you can see a lot of paper texture. I mean, these Sharpies really bleed. You know, it's not a clean line at all. So there's ways to clean this up, and we're just going to go through a quick way of doing those at the moment. Okay, so first of all, we've got this image. We go to the Channels tab over here on the right, Channels tab, and you see that all four, RGB, red, green and blue, they're all selected. So if you go and hold the Control key and click any one of these pictures, it doesn't matter which one, you'll get a quick selection. Now that selection is actually selecting all the highlights, all the whites, all the light colours. It's not selecting the black. Now we want it to select the black. So we go up here and we go to Select, and we go down to Inverse. That will invert it, and now all the blacks are selected. Now that's done, you come back down over to here where your channels are, and at the bottom there's an icon there which is a rectangle with a circle in. Now that is going to create a channel mask. So we click that, and then we've got our channel mask. So you click onto the alpha, and there you can see it. So that is the mask. Okay, so unselect everything by clicking, if you have to, click this quick selection tool and click anywhere and it will just unselect, and you've got your mask. Right, now what I would do here is, where is it? Filter, distort, no it's not distort, blur, sorry, Gaussian blur, and then go ahead panning around in this window and try and find an area you want to see how blurred you want it to make it a neater drawing. Now I probably don't want it that blurred, so I'm going to bring it down. So you experiment and see what you think. I just want the edges slightly blurred, because then when I sharpen them up it will go to the middle of the blur. Okay, let's try that. So OK, and then once you've done that, you go to Image Adjustments, go to Levels, and then this is where we're going to adjust the levels. Actually, before we do that, cancel, zoom in so you can see the detail. Zoom in so you can see the detail. So you're going to see how this is affected by the levels adjustment. So adjustment, levels. Okay, so now you're going to play with this. Now, if you bring this way, you notice it will pick up all the whites. You bring it the other way, it starts getting rid of the whites. So you're going to want a middle ground on that. You're going to want all the whites, but you're going to want them sharp. So moving this one. Moving it this way will make the whites thicker, pick up more whites. Move it this way, they'll make them thinner. And you can see that very sparse. We don't want it quite that bad. So probably about there. So I'm having a play here because you know, to get the best, you've really got to know. You've really got to play around. So that's probably the best. There. So go there. Okay. Zoom out. Now, it's not perfect, but it's certainly better than it was. So now we're going to select everything on this channel by holding Control and clicking this alpha's picture. Now what that does, that's just selected all that white. So we go back to layers. At the bottom, it's like a new piece of paper. That's a new layer. You're going to click that and create a new layer. The other way of doing that is going up to the top here, layer, new, and then going across to layer. Okay, so we've got the new layer, and we're going to disappear the old layer by clicking the eye, so you can't see the old layer. Now that selection there is actually our line drawing. So what we're going to do is make sure black is your foreground colour, you're going to go edit, fill, and you're going to fill, make sure this says foreground colour here, and press OK. And there, if you unselect everything again, there is your line art. And that looks pretty good. I mean, I'm happy with that. That's a quick little scan cleanup, and that's done that. Now, what I didn't do in the last tutorial, but I'm going to do it in this one because I'm going to show you guys how to do it. I'm going to get the eraser. Make sure it's a solid brush. So one of these with a solid line, hardness 100%. I mean, you can get one and change it to 100%, but just pick one 100%. Pick a size you're happy with. By the way, if you cannot see the size of the brush, i.e. see I can see the outline of this brush at the moment, if you cannot see that, that's because caps lock is selected. If you select caps lock, it goes to a pointer, you can't see the size of the brush. Turn caps lock off and it will work. Right, so what I do here, and what I haven't done in the previous tutorial, but I do like to do this with drawings, you can see where a lot of the bleed is. We can clean this up. The way we clean this up is we have the eraser with a solid brush and use it by clicking over to delete bits and then holding shift, and it'll give you a nice, you delete the lines to make them straight. That's too much. This is ever so easy on the computer. That's one of the big advantages. If you find your deleted lines are going a bit bumpy, you go up here, brush tools. It might not be there on yours, so you might want to go view, and I believe it's no window. Sorry, window, brush. Click brush or F5. You see the spacing here. You want this spacing down to 0, because otherwise, the more spacing, the more you'll see like bumps in the line. So when you're drawing these straight lines, you'll get bumpy lines. You don't want that. You want no spacing. Okay, and you'll just go around the whole image doing this. You can improve everywhere pretty much. It depends how much time you've got and how much you want to do. I'm just going to do some basics and clean up some like mistakes, like that bit there was a mistake, and see what we come out with. I'm also going to do the like notch bits in like that. That should be notched in. That should be notched in. Any kind of obvious bits that should be straight that aren't, get them done. But again, I would probably do if I was doing this for a long piece of artwork, I would do the whole drawing. I am not going to do that today because this tutorial does not want to be 4 days long. You can also, using the pencil tool, make sure opacity is 100%, make sure you're on black, you can colour in bits that are mistakes like that. Use your eraser to improve bits. So where else we got? So this here, no need for that to be like that. I appreciate it's hard to see my mouse, so anyway, apologies for if you notice a jump cut there. I mentioned in my earlier videos I've got my daughter off sick from work, school work. Yeah, I wish she was at work already. So she came in calling for daddy, so I had to pause for a second. So we've just jumped straight back in. So what was going around was actually just cleaning these lines up now, using the eraser, just going around and neatening them up. Now, like I said, I'm not going to do it like I would fully. That would take a very long time, and nobody wants to see that in a tutorial. So for the sake of the boredom of you guys, I'm just going to go around and do some obvious bits. So what you can see is I'm just looking for lines where things have bled over, or have gone bumpy or anything like that, because obviously we want everything nice and neat, because it's a machine. It wants to be neat, wants to be straight. And it's just generally going over and cleaning up, and you can spend as spend as long as you want on this. So apologies again, I've got my daughter sick off school, so I keep getting called away, so you might see a few jump cuts. But what I was doing is just carrying on cleaning all the little lines up that should be straight. You know, I say I'm not going to do them all. Tutorial will be like many hours long if I was going to do every line, but I'm going to do the obvious ones. Ones that really stand out to me that they need, you know, cleaning up. This also gives you a chance to clean anything up in your line art which you think leaves a little to be desired. If you think anything, edit undo. If you think anything needs a bit of improvement, now's your time. You can draw in with a black pen, etc. If you need to fill bits in, and this is so much easier than using a ruler and paper. You're literally just holding shift and clicking around with the eraser, and it's doing the job. All these little bits, just correct them, make them cleaner. You see everything's just starting to look a little bit sharp, a little bit cleaner, a little bit more machine-like. So I'm doing this with the mouse. You can obviously do it with your stylus if you want. I just went a bit quick with the mouse. How are we getting up on? There can't be that much more to do now. Just for this quick stage. So a few little blotches from the scan that you can also clean up while you're at it if you want to. So every little bit of cleaning up helps. Be careful doing it around the wheels because they are not straight lines. So if you're going to do improvements to the wheels, I'd suggest multiple clicks to get more of a curve, like that, as opposed to visible straight lines. These edges are okay because these edges will be straight with them in like cylinders. If you do need to draw around, obviously your stylus would be better for that. That is to a point. You can see the line art is improving using these. It's getting a lot cleaner. Now, as you can see, you'd be here all day doing this if you wanted to do this fully, so obviously take as much time as you've got. If you've got the time to do it all fully, crack on and do it. You know, it will look better for it. Okay, so that's about all I'm going to do for now. I think that looks quite clean. Now, if you want to see that better, just create a new layer, put it underneath your current layer, name it background or something like that, and then use the fill bucket tool over here, which is a paint bucket, change to white and fill it with white, and you'll be able to see a lot better where there's like there's muck and that. So like there's muck here from the scan. But you can obviously, oh, I was on the background layer, you get back to your main layer and do it like that. And you can clean all these little bits up as well if you want. And these are just residues from the paper, the pencil sketches, that kind of thing. I mean, the majority of them won't be visible when you do your colouring, which we'll get onto in a minute. But if you're a perfectionist and you want to get them cleaned up, if you're doing a professional piece of work, maybe, you know, you want this as tight as possible. These are things you can do to improve it. So you vary in size of brush as you go along as you need to. I will clean this muck off the face, because the face needs to be a focal point. Okay, so you've got your line art here. Now, there's loads of different ways to colour your line art. I'm going to show you my way, but I would suggest looking at all different tutorials, see if you can find something that maybe works better for you. But this is how I would do it. So first of all, I'm going to save that because there's a bit of work being done on that. I will save it. Okay, and then we are going to name this layer main sketch, or whatever you want to do, just so you remember this is your main art. So main sketch, and I'm going to lock it with the padlock. Now that's locked, so that means I can't accidentally draw on here. That's exactly what we want. So I'm going to right click it and duplicate layer, and I'm going to make the new layer sketch overlay. Okay, so sketch overlay is also locked. I need to unlock that and make it on this drop down here, make it overlay. So it's overlay, and then lock it again. So you come back to your main sketch again, and this is where we're going to add the colour layers. We're going to add them between the main sketch and the sketch overlay. So there can be two different drawing layers, but our colours are going to be right in the middle. So you have to think how many colours are going to be. So if I look at my sample Bumblebee again, I just went for the main colours initially. So you've obviously got yellow. There's a lot of yellow. I'd say there's a lot of black, and I'd even say these are silvers. Okay, so this is a picture I just downloaded off the internet. Someone else has drawn. I like the colour schemes, and I'll show you why I've downloaded this picture in a minute. So we'll start with just 3. So the new layer button at the bottom here. So 1, 2, 3. And then just name each one what they're going to be. So for instance, this first one will definitely be yellow base. That's going to be the base colour for the yellow. Then we're going to do the double click again this one and name this one silver base. And then the last one black base. Okay. Right, and we're going to lock them all off apart from the one we're working on. So the only one we're working on is the yellow base. Right, now back to why I downloaded this picture earlier. Now when you're colouring these pictures, unless you're confident picking your colours and choosing and everything, you know, I mean, by all means do that. But what I find is a good tip for a beginner, especially because all monitors that people have are different. Find a piece of artwork that you like, by either an established artist, or even a photo of the toy if you wanted to use the toy. So you could look at those as well. But what I'm going to do, I've downloaded this picture from Google Images, and it's because I like the colours. I like the colours the way it's done. So I like the blacks, the greys, sorry, the silvers, and the yellow. I think the yellow is very good. So what we're going to do first of all is get this dropper tool over here. So eyedropper tool, click that, and your foreground colour is now going to be made whatever colour you use. So I'm looking for yellow base. I want my yellow to be based off. All my shades, everything's going to be on top of that. So I'm going to click that. And now I've got that colour. That colour is now ready to use. So back to our drawing again. Now the way I draw is obviously look at what parts you're going to be painting yellow. So you've got obviously the belt, the chest, the head, the arms and the feet. So we go back to our Bumblebee picture. And I would use the pencil tool. There's loads of different techniques, but this is my technique. I'd use the pencil tool. I'd zoom in where I'm going to be drawing. And I would hold shift and I would draw round all the yellow parts. Now because we've got this overlay, you can actually go over the black lines, but what it will do, rather than just going over them, it will turn them into shadows. So if you look, where I've gone over, it's gone to like a darker yellow. Now now I've done this completely, I use the filter tool in there, and you can see the colour. Now for me, that is too orange. That is too orange. That is not what I was after. So I'm going to try and get a lighter yellow. It appears that is how it's going to look. Well, it's not an issue for now. We are going to carry on colouring the drawing. Obviously adding bits in where you need to. And we can always change that colour later. So again, we're going to do all the other yellow parts now. Obviously zoom in if you need to. And this is a bit where I was saying earlier, the shadows won't actually be black. Because my colouring technique will actually go over them. Unless you leave areas, like I want to leave a black line there because I want that shadow around that forearm. And we're going to fill these areas like that. And it's a case of just going across the whole drawing. Selecting all the areas basically by drawing an outline on them and then filling them. So if I zoom out and you see the effect it's having. It's colouring it all, but these black areas are actually not black. They're going to be yellow, but the darker yellow. So it's automatically doing some shade for you. So we'll carry on and do the whole image. I'll speed this up though for time. Okay, so now we've got the Bumblebee generally coloured. So this is the base colour. Straight away you can see it looks actually quite good. With the black shade and the shadows we've already put on the inking, it already accentuates the points that we want. So obviously it makes all the yellow areas darker where they should be darker, etc. Now I've spotted a few little things I've missed. For instance, in this section here, this probably wants to be black, so I'd probably go back into the black and add that in. I can do that quickly. So and if you want to see what you're doing a bit better, you can click the eye on the overlay layer and it gets rid of it, just so you can see where you're filling. Now I appreciate with the dark colours, I don't even know if it's going to pick up on the camera, but the dark colours are very hard to see. So again, what you can do, you could do these in like a light colour. You could even do them like a bright red or something like that, and you can then change them afterwards to the dark greys, etc. Okay, so that's what it looks like, just the colour, and I'll put the overlay on. Okay, right, so the next stage would be then to colour this. Now there's a couple of different ways. Obviously you can shell shade, easy for me to say, you can cell shade it, so you can shade with like direct lines. So I'll just show you a quick example of what that would be like. So I'd get like the dark colour that I want for this by that, and then go in like that. I think I've joined all that up. No. And then you just colour over with the shading. Obviously, if you put a bit on you don't like, you can just use and delete it. So that'd be cell shading. It'd be like straight line shading. But that's not what I tend to do, so I'm just going to delete that layer for now, and I'm going to show you how I would shade this. Right, so first of all, we'll start where we were. You can see that we've got the yellow base, we've got all the base colours in. Now we want to colour just the yellow base. So the way to do that is obviously click on the yellow base and you want to add new layer. Now I would now rename this layer yellow shade. Okay, now we don't want to have to draw in the lines and everything all over again. We want this to be quicker and more streamlined. So to do that, hold Control and click the little picture profile for yellow base. That will now quick select all the yellow base. Now whatever colour I put in here, for instance if I put a red in here, there's no need why we'd be using a red, but whenever I draw now it's only going to colour in that area. So step back and it's gone. It also means you're not going to touch this yellow base. You don't have to go back to the start if you don't like the shade. So anyway, we are now going to start applying shade. Now I would do this with the brush tool. I'd make it so it's like a soft, so no hardness. Spacing would be off, so no spacing, 1%. And then drop the opacity and the flow. Now here I'd probably use my my tablet stylus and do it with my pen. The reason being is obviously you've got a lot more pressure control and accuracy with your hand, a lot more artistic flow generally. So we're just going to go ahead and plug that in. I've only got a cheap Huion tablet. It's not great. It's nice and large, so there is that. It was an improvement off I had a very small Wacom before. Now the Wacom was more accurate, better with pressure sensitivity and less bugs, but because it was tiny, I really had to zoom in to do any kind of work. This is a bit bigger, so I get a bit more accuracy zoomed out. Ideally, you'd have one of the graphic display tablets where you actually draw onto a screen, like one of the expensive Wacoms. But that's not what I've got at the moment. I assume the average artist doesn't have that because they can run into the thousands. So anyway, we're going to have a go with this. And I'm going to airbrush. And this is going to be trial and error because you're going to airbrush in, but you can just delete it out if you need to. So to get this shade, I went back to the sample drawing and used the pipette tool again, the little dropper, and just picked one of the darker yellows. Even if the colours are off, just remember, if you watched the last tutorial, you will remember, but if you didn't, just for your benefit, I'm just going to show you. We'll be playing with the sketch overlay opacity at the end. So you can flick that down, and you notice straight away it changes that colour. So that's probably more the colour I'm going to be going for there. But just for now, so I can see the lines nicely, I'm going to keep going with it at full opacity. Okay. Be careful not to draw now on this layer, lock it again, go back to yellow shade. And it's always better to go a bit over the board with the shadows, because you'll see in the next step when we add the highlights, you will be going over the shadows again. So you'll be correcting these shadows and changing the colours. I'm just doing the yellow for now, and what a good technique is whenever you're working on the PC is every so often just zoom out and have a look, and looking out from afar your eyes should naturally pick up where there should be more shadow, more shade. Your brain's trained to actually do that because you can see when something's off. So if you just keep doing that, you'll eventually get all the shade. Okay, so we zoom out, and I'll use the selection tool to deselect it all. Just have a quick look. Now, I don't like how he's so red. I mean, if we have a look at the overlay and drop that down again, it won't be. It'll be a bit brown, which is more like we want. So that's giving. There we go. That's more golden. Now that's more. That gives me confidence that it's actually going to look okay when it's finished. So you need to do that every so often, just to make sure that you are not putting colour on needlessly. You're actually getting the colour right. So I think that looks okay. I'm going to put that back up again, so I'll just carry on. But now, I'm now going to do, on yellow shade, I'm going to do highlights. So again, you can pick your own colour, or you can click over to here. Now I quite like this highlight yellow they've used. It's like a whitey cream, it's very good. So I'm going to go ahead and just add those now. Again, on yellow shade, control on yellow base to select everything again, and just away you go. And the beauty of this, if you go over the black lines with it, it will actually fade them out, so it will really show a highlight. And again, if you want to, you can hold the shift to get some real precise highlights. As you see, we'll probably go over a lot of the shade. So if you felt it was a bit overpowering, this is a good time to knock it down a peg. Remember this back shadow, this back highlight I wanted to do? Well, that comes in useful when you've got bits like this. And you'll want that under the arms as well, so like there to there. There to there. And this will be really useful when I get into the head in a minute. You can see the black is just, it's fading out now I'm doing this. You can see where I did the straight line tool there, and it was like where the opacity is overlapping, it's making like a lighter point. If you just get this smudge tool here, it's over here, it's where the blur sharpen smudge tool is, and you want it nice low, so probably about 36 maybe. Let's give that a go, and you just rub it up and down, and what it will do, smooth those bits out. It stops you having that blotty look. And that'll be useful when finishing any kind of art. It's worth using. Again, I'll put like a little bit of shine highlight on there, but use your smudge tool. Now it will be a slow process if you make the brush too big. Photoshop has to think about it when you use this tool, but it's very good for those kind of highlights like that. And I am going to be adding those all over, so like this panel here will have definite shine on it, but then I'll use a smudge tool like that. And my computer has to think about it, even though it's quite a fast PC, but obviously not fast enough for this. zoom out, have another look, see how we're looking. Yeah, so I quite like that shimmer on there. And we'll be doing the head, so similar kind of thing. First of all, add in all your highlights. This is the back, obviously, but then these are definitely going to be highlighted. There we go. Because we've got this overlay of this black image above, when you're going over the line, it really gives that shine. When you highlight the black bits, it really looks like it's shining. Don't get those backlights as well. Allows you to put more detail in like that. Okay, so I'm aware that I'm not actually telling you exactly how to do this, and yeah, that's an issue with art. You've got to experiment and learn how to do this yourself. I mean, I'm trying to describe what I'm doing, but I'm not telling you what to do. You know, it's a lot of this is going to be down to you trial and erroring. I mean, if you've never done this kind of Photoshop computer colouring before, it's going to be completely new to you. However, if you've done it, I don't know whether you've done it at school or wherever, this is going to look slightly familiar and you'll probably pick it up quicker. Now, I've learned this from basically years of just doing it myself, it's almost like a hobby. I've just started taking it up again and I'm trying to get better. I mean, I've noticed there's a lot of areas where I've got worse because I've not been practicing, but I'm picking it up again pretty quick. I believe you can if you haven't even done it before. You should be able to pick this up pretty quick through practice and diligence and hard work, and even research and looking at other tutorials and watching other people's techniques and even studying other people's art. So I want to look what this looks like with the overlay going again. It's quite useful to just keep checking. Yeah, but those highlights still look good, I think. Yeah, I'm happy with those. So we'll put the overlay back up again. It's just nice to know that overlay takes the orange redness away. I mean, eventually you should even be able to do that. You should be able to drop it off completely, and your shading and your colouring should be enough to see the whole image without it. Remember that under highlight that I put there, so there's going to be a light on the lip of this, so you just got to remember to do those as well, because that will make a difference. It will look nicer. I've just realised I've done that on the sketch overlay. So this is what I was saying about locking the sketch overlay. Don't, you know, be careful what you're doing. So I'm going to just get rid of the yellow thing and see how much sketch overlay I've actually done. I can't actually see where that is, but I'm just going to lock that off again. Go back to yellow shade. That's probably why it hasn't gone over that black line though. So like that. Obviously I've got control and select the yellow base again. Which I've got to do. And just go along, putting these highlights on exactly where you think they should be. You want him to look nice and shiny, that's the whole point. And again, smudging where you need to. If you think the shade is looking a bit blotchy, just get that smudge tool out and do it. Your computer will thank you for using the smudge tool in a smaller brush up close rather than a big brush. Okay, so that's looking okay. Now I'm happy with the shading there on the yellow for now, because that's not how it will finish anyway. There's I've just noticed a few bits I need to highlight, sorry, but I'll talk you through what I'm going to do while I do this. There is going to be a final stage after all this is done anyway, so it won't end like this, and that I will show you in later on in the video. Okay, so but while now that's finished, I'm going to go on and do the greys and the blacks as well. But for that I will speed that up, because you're not going to watch me do the whole thing all over again for all the other colours. So I'll speed that up, then I'll come back and tell you about the last technique. Okay, so all that shading is done now. So we're now going to look at the final steps that I do just to finish this off, give it a final bit of polish. Obviously the eyes and the windows haven't been coloured yet, but I'll show you what I'll do with those as I go. Right, so first of all I'm going to make 2 new layers. So by clicking down here and bring those underneath your sketch overlay. You don't want them over the top. And the bottom one I'm going to label shadows. And the one above I'm going to label highlights. Now this will look familiar if you've watched my other tutorials, but for the people that haven't seen this before, these are going to be both going to be overlay. So if you go to overlay and highlights, overlay. Okay, so you've got the highlight and the shadows layer now. Now you're only going to be using black and white on these. Make sure you've got proper black, proper white. Okay, they're both going to be overlay. I'll lock off that black shade, I don't need that anymore. And what you're going to do with these, you're just going to use a pencil tool, fully hard, make it fairly large, And what I would do these very sharp. So we'll go here, and we're going to use shift. We're really going to thicken up shadows down the inside. Of his leg. And we'll do the same on the other side. Now, I know this looks like we're completely eliminating all that detail, but we are going to affect the opacity in a bit. And when we change the opacity, you'll notice it just goes into a dark overlay. It just adds pop to the picture. If you watch other tutorials, you realise that's a word I use quite a lot. Now, because it's an extra layer, you can be pretty much as messy as you want, because what you can do, you can just delete this off. It's not going to affect it, and because it's just pencil, it's hard. You can go over it. And it's not going to add those blotchy bits what you get from like the paintbrush. So I'm just going to add all lovely shadows in. Zoomed out, that looks alright, but you're probably going to want to zoom in and make sure that you're doing this right. So you probably notice on these yellow, it's certain that you're giving that orangey red again, which we know is going to go when we start dropping the opacity on the overlay layer, for instance, like that. Okay, so that's going to go. That's not a problem. So we can just ignore that for now. We keep going with the shadows, and again, as I say, delete them as and when you want. But again, I do a fully hard brush, full opacity, full flow, because you want these clean. Okay, so that's the shadows. And what we're going to do, I'll just come in here and actually do the face in a bit more detail. We're going with the eraser, smaller. It's nice and sharp. And again, it is quite hard to see them on the dart, but if you really need to get in and have a look, you can hide some of the other layers so you can get a full view of that. So I want these sharper, so oh. Head, it's a bit more of a focal point, so you want to make sure you get them accurate. Certain portions where there won't be a shadow, like on these bits that are lit from the lights we're doing, there won't be the shadows on those. So we're going to take away the shadow off those. Make them nice and smooth. So they're sharp. But like we did the shadows before, these are also going to be affected by the highlights we put on next. So let's just drop that opacity and have a look again. Yeah, I think that's looking good. He's looking like a gold bug, so he's not looking that reddy brown. So I'm quite happy with that. So we'll lock that off again. And we're going to highlights. Now we're doing exactly the same that we did with the shadows, but this time we're going the whites. I go a bigger brush for this, where possible. Obviously there are detailed areas. You're just gonna highlight the edges that you think will be affected by the light. And again, you notice that real orange it's done there. Now, that's not too bad when you zoom out and you drop the opacity on the sketch overlay. It looks actually quite good. And that's the effect I'm going for. All the shiny bits, especially corners, edges, that kind of thing. Now, it might look like overkill while you're doing this, but you can drop the opacity if it's no good. You can even fade them out by using erasers on certain bits. So this is not how it's going to look on the final thing until you've adjusted it. Okay, so these are just highlights. So you start to notice these white highlights are actually looking quite good already, but what you can do, you can drop the opacity and make them a bit more subtle if you want. I mean, I quite like that at the moment, at the strong highlights they are. Especially useful in these dark areas, because a lot of the detail, like you noticed earlier, gets hidden by the dark. Shadow gone there, actually. Doesn't need to be there. So they look right on there, so I'm going to remove that. Smudge that one. So, just getting to the end now, we're just looking for all the bits we haven't highlighted yet. Just adding the shine, especially these black areas, it really helps bring it out so you can actually see what you've drawn and what other people can see what you've drawn. So yeah, I like that across the knuckles, that looks good, across the fingers. You're probably going to want to put some in here as well. Think about that. Okay, so we'll go to the sketch overlay, see how that looks, drop the opacity. Well, I think that looks great. I'm actually really happy with that. I don't think the highlights are overpowering unless you zoom right in, and then they can be a problem. But you can see where obviously I'm doing this for speed. There's a lot of bits that can be improved, especially like the shadow areas, because they were hard to do because they were dark, but that should take you time. But you can see like that highlight gives that a panel look. It's good for that. same with the tyres. You know, you put centre wheels in there. These need cleaning up. But because this is a quick as possible process, this works for what we need. Okay, so you just go back and you keep doing the shadows and applying them and removing them wherever you felt fit, and seeing the effects and seeing how much different it looks. So definitely add that shadow like that on the wheels. That looks a bit better. Okay. So I'm just mousing this, so you can see it's probably a bit messy. Little bits I think could be improved. Anyway, that is a coloured Bumblebee. Now, I forgot to show this in the tutorial last time, so I'm going to show you what I do then just to finalise this, but that will be in a part 4. It's only a small video, but it will be just finishing this off and making it look even better. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to do those eyes, because you want to know how to do the eyes. No, I'll add that into the part 4. So part 4 will be the finishing touches. Okay, thank you for watching, and if you want to see the finished article, go to part 4 and see how I finalise it. Cheers.